tutorials. I'm going to show you how to use a loom to make a beaded bracelet today. So I have a couple options on the looms here. I like this one because it's bigger. It does space out my thread a little bit more, so I kind of keep my strings loose. Or there's one like this. The only downfall of this is it's generally pretty, like kind of cutting it close as far as the length to make a bracelet. So one or the other. I'm going to use this one today. I have my pattern. So this is a template that I give my students, and they, you know, color it in or whatever so that they know what order to put their beads in, and then this would just repeat. So I'm going to start with my thread. I'm going to put some thread on a needle. And what I've done here is I have stretched across, I want 7 rows of beads, so I have 8 strands of the thread already on here. So just to save the time, I went ahead and did it so you don't have to watch me. And I'm going to show you how to get started on this, and then like always I will skip ahead on the busy part and show you how to finish the end. So there is something in my room that is making me cough. I can't stop filming these tutorials. I have to keep stopping. Okay. So I have my needle here on my thread, and I've pulled it halfway, and I'm going to just tie the 2 ends in a knot here. And then I'm going to run it through my first hole here, and I'm going to tape it to the back so that it stays. Don't want it to come out. You don't have to worry about all these ends of thread and stuff. They will all be gathered together, and then the excess will be trimmed off at the end. So to begin this, what you're gonna do is start putting on the beads in order. So my first row is going to be this kind of coral color, and I am using seed beads. This is another project where it would be very beneficial to use the Miyuki beads. And the only reason I don't use those in a lot of these tutorials is because those beads are a lot more expensive, so I don't buy a lot of them in the class. I have started to buy more because they, I love that they are all the exact same size, whereas seed beads and rocaille beads, the sizes vary a little bit. So even though they say 2 millimeters, it might be 1.5 millimeters or 3 millimeters. And so sometimes it can make your pattern a little wonky there. So I'm putting on my 7 coral beads. So I've got 5, 6, and 7. So I have those on. What I'm gonna do is run my needle underneath. So I'm gonna reach underneath here, like this. And what I need to happen is I need to space these beads out so that there is one sitting in between each of these little columns. So in between each of these. Once you do a couple of these, a couple rows, then this becomes much easier, and you'll see here in a second. So I'm just gonna space them a little bit like this. You will not have to do this after the first probably 2, I would say, rows. Okay, so I've got them a little bit spaced out. Now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take my needle, and this time I have to go on top of the thread. So before I ran the thread underneath my vertical strands here, now I'm gonna take the needle and I'm going on top. As I go on top of them, I want to make sure that I go through each bead again. So I'm gonna go through this one. When I go through them, I want to make sure that that bead is staying in its little column. If you don't do that, then it kind of starts to get out of place. So again, the first row or two is a little challenging. So I'm gonna pull these. So as I get ready to do this, working my way back, I'm on the third column. I want to make sure that the bead is in place there. I'm going through the bead, but I'm making sure that my needle is always staying on top here. And now I'm going to go to the next one. So you can see I'm kind of spacing them out as I go. So through this one, and you'll see I'm picking up the pace a little bit. Goodness. So now when I pull, it's going to start to pull these strings together, which is what I want. Because they are so far apart, and now that I'm on the last one, I'm going to make sure that when I put my beads on, I'm going underneath it again, like this, okay? So I'll put my next row of beads on, and yes, these are very stretched out right now, but it's going to pull them together once we get a little bit more on here. Okay, so my next row starts with a gold bead, and I'm just going to do one more row to give you an idea. So I just took my thread underneath all of the vertical strands. And now I've got 1 gold, 5 of the coral ones, and then 1 more gold. That's not gold. Sometimes we get a color mixed in that doesn't belong. So all the beads are sliding on. They're sitting underneath my rows here. And now I'm gonna work my way back again. I'm gonna take the first bead on here, space it out a little bit, and I want to go through the bead. As you start to get these more and more rows on, you can just press your cords down, your vertical strands down, and it's much easier. And again, once you start to get some in place, they will go where they need to go. They tend to space out after you have a few rows on. Okay, so I'm through all of those, and I've got 2 more to go through. We've got 1 and 1 more. And so my needle should end up, I'm on top of the thread. I'm going to pull everything tight, and you'll see it starting to come together a little better. That as you pull it tight like that. So now you can see the pattern starting to form like this. Now when I put my next one on, if I kind of push it up, the beads should really go into place. They should go into each of those. So I'm going to swing back under here again, slide my next 7 beads on, push them up into the place so that they go into each little slot here, and I will go back through the beads. And when I'm taking my needle through the beads, I want to be very mindful to keep that needle above the vertical strands of thread. All the way through it, pull it tight, and so on. So I'm gonna go ahead and finish the beading part of it. You are gonna run into a point where you run out of thread. So just like always with the, whenever we're working with thread, when you get to a point where you have 3 or 4 inches maybe of thread left, just cut right below the needle, take the needle off, get a new piece of thread and put it on the needle, and take those new ends of your thread and tie them to the existing ones, and then you can continue on. Do not trim off the excess until you've gone a few rows to make sure it's secure, and always knot it at least 3 times, otherwise you risk it coming undone. So let me get the beads on here. It's going to take me a little bit, and when I come back, I'm going to show you how to finish up the bracelet. Okay, so now that I have the loom bracelet finished as far as the beading part goes, I'm ready to remove it from the loom. I already did this side, so all I did was just took my scissors, and I'm just going to run them along here to trim the pieces of the thread free from the loom. So I did that here. I also have the end of my needle and thread still here as well. I'm going to free these edges like this, and then I'm gonna take them together and finish the end with what is called a cord clasp or a cord end. Depending on where you get them from, they're called different things. Again, I'll include a link of where you can purchase these. But basically what it is, it's a little holder that has a flap on each side. So you'll lay the strings, the thread, sorry. So I have a classroom next to mine, and they are watching one of my tutorial videos right now, so I hear my voice in that other room. And so if you hear me talking twice, that's what it is. So the cord clasp here has a flap on each side. You would take your pliers, and you're gonna close one side at a time with your thread laying through it. So let me show you how that is done here. So I've gathered all my strands together. I've kind of twisted them. I'm going to put the cord clasp, and you can tie these in a knot if that's easier. I'm going to lay all my strands in here. Make sure they all get in that little part like this. Then what I'm going to do is take the pliers here, and I'm going to crimp over one side and then the other, or fold them over, I guess. So you end up with it like this, okay? So from here, I'm going to trim this off. So I'm going to trim all of the extra thread. And you can get those as short as you want there. So all those pieces are gone now. And then I'm just going to hook in a jump ring and a lobster clasp. And then on the other side, I'm going to finish it the same way, and I will also hook on a jump ring, but obviously I don't need the clasp on that side. And then that's it, and that is your finished bracelet. So not too hard. The part that's the most difficult is definitely the beading part, the loom part. And it's not even difficult, it's just time consuming. Once you get the first couple rows, you should be able to get the hang of it. So that's it for this tutorial. Thanks for watching, guys. Thanks for watching this video. Make sure you stay connected with Urban Rhino on social media. And don't forget to give this video a thumbs up, comment below, and of course, subscribe to our channel.